You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
And the Chief Whip of the EFF in Parliament is Nontando Nolutshungu, who is joining us now via Zoom. Mam Nontando, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Clement. Good morning to the viewers, to the listeners.
I want us to start off with, of course, what truly is a significant moment today in Parliament. The Minister of Finance expected to table that budget speech at 2 p.m. As the economic freedom fighters, what are you expecting from the Minister of Finance, especially now that we know there's still no deal, as you and I speak this morning at 10:08?
No, thank you very much, Clement. As we all know that there are problems with the budget speech, hence it did not happen 2 weeks ago, and it was then rescheduled for today. The main problem was the hike of the 2% VAT, which we are totally against. And as you know, that the challenges, of those that are not able to put bread on the table, it's going to be very difficult for them. It will even be more worse to put bread on the table if the VAT is hiked. So as the EFF, we're against it. And we know the issue of unemployment. We're expecting the minister to touch on that. We're also expecting the minister to look at the bloated cabinet. If they need money, there is money that there are places where we can cut. We can cut the number of deputy ministers that are there, and we can also introduce the wealth tax.
Okay, and I can ask you just maybe a follow-up about the wealth tax, but before that, what there were suggestions that the ANC is trying to find ways or trying to find other parties that can support a slight percentage VAT increase. Are you able to tell us as the EFF if that is something you're willing to support? Because there have been reports that the ANC wants to approach you as the EFF because the DA is not budging on supporting any VAT increase. Is that something you're willing to support as the EFF? And have you been approached already by the ANC?
We have not been approached by the ANC unless they'll be approaching us now. But as of now, we have not heard anything from the ANC. And as we had said before, we are not willing to support a VAT increase. We've made that very clear.
Yeah. Okay. I want to move on to other parliamentary issues now, because as the Chief Whip of the economic freedom fighters, there are responsibilities that you have. Just help us understand what your expectations are as the EFF on your members of parliament. I mean, there's constituency work that has to be done. There are meetings that need to be attended in committees. I think we've seen some brilliant work from some of the EFF members of parliament. I can mention Sihle as an example, who have really been holding accountable even people who've been coming there to do interviews in parliament, to be on the board of the NYDA. What are your expectations of your members of parliament as the EFF?
Okay, thank you very much, Clement. As you know, EFF had a plan right from the beginning. When we started in 2014, the plan was to get the public to take interest of what is happening in the political space. The noise that we made in parliament, we were kicked out in parliament, because what we're trying to bring to the South Africans was that there's a lot that is happening that they are not taking note of. So it's important for them to take, note of what's happening in parliament. And so in those first 5 years, we managed to achieve that. As of today, you can talk to anyone, you can talk to children, you will know that they are aware of what's happening in the political space. And they've taken interest in what's happening. People will be rushing to watch TV when parliament is sitting. And what we wanted to achieve was that parliament is, a house of ideas, and people are more than welcome to open and discuss those ideas in Parliament. We have moved from there, and now on the 7th Parliament, our main aim, as the CIC had indicated right from the beginning, that there'll be no disturbances. We can't afford to be thrown out of Parliament because we want to come to Parliament and bring more substance and sharply articulate our debates. And they also challenge the current administration on each and every issue, hold the executive accountable in each and every possible way. And as the EFF, we have declared that this is the year of the picket lines. So what's going to happen is that every Thursdays from 10 to 1 o'clock, the EFF caucus will sit, discuss issues and how to do certain things. And then on Tuesdays, every evening after Parliament, we'll stay in Parliament up until 8 o'clock and dealing with issues and looking at how we are going to handle all the issues that will be for Parliament that week.
Tell me more about this decision to change your strategy in Parliament in as far as disruptions are concerned. What didn't work about the previous strategy and what's working now about the new strategy since it was implemented?
As I have indicated, Clement, it worked. It really worked because people have taken interest in the South African politics. Ordinary people on the streets have taken interest. What we've done, we sort of reorganized ourselves to be the main opposition in Parliament. As you know, that we're the 4th largest party, but we've taken a stance that we want to come very strongly as the main opposition party by holding the executive accountable. If you look at what has happened last week or a few weeks ago, the portfolio on defense, EFF led the charge in holding the executive to account on the DRC matter. It was our members who insisted and made sure that the meeting or the portfolio committee wouldn't sit without the presence of the minister. And that happened. So we are really in that space of making sure that we hold the executive accountable. You look at the portfolio that is SCOPA. We also there have been on the forefront of exposing financial misconduct in key institutions, including the Department of Defense, the Sector Education and Training Authorities, that is the SETA, ESCOM, UIF, and RAF. And lately, as you have also mentioned, that when we looked at the portfolio committee on women, youth, and persons with disabilities, we realized that nothing, if you look during the year, when you look at the activities of that portfolio, the issue of youth will only come out when they are coming for the appointment of the board of the NYDA. So what we did there, we positioned ourselves, we made sure that Sihle was there, a young person will be there to sort of represent the youth and make sure that the issues of youth are tabled and attended to. And without the EFF, the National Youth Development Agency Board would have gone ahead and processed through allowing people with questionable backgrounds to be appointed. So both in National Assembly and NCOP, EFF members will be in the forefront of activism through parliamentary work.
Okay. What about your plan to work with other parties in Parliament? How are you refining the role of the EFF as a formidable opposition in Parliament since the introduction of the MK party as the official opposition? And are there still plans to really solidify that progressive caucus that we saw just after the elections last year? In other words, I know the leader of the EFF said, I want nothing to do with the MK party. I assume it's outside of Parliament. What's your position inside Parliament. Are you still prepared to work with the MK party in Parliament?
Thank you very much for that question. We are prepared to work with the opposition. We are the ones that actually established we took, the decision to establish the Progressive Forum. So outside Parliament, we do not have any relations. What brings us together is Parliament, and it is the work that we have to do to make sure that we attend to the issues of all South Africans.
Okay, so you are still prepared to work with the MK party. The Progressive Caucus is still very much firmly in place.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. It's 18 minutes now after 10 o'clock. I want to give our listeners an opportunity to weigh in on this conversation. We are chatting to Nontando Nolutshungu, who's the EFF Chief Whip in Parliament. This is part of our series over the last couple of weeks where we speak to chief whips of big political parties, whether it's the EFF, we've spoken to the MK party, we spoke to the ANC, we'll be speaking to the DA in the coming weeks as well. If you've got questions for Nontando, you can give us a call right now on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Maybe you're an EFF member yourself. Maybe there's clarity that you're seeking in as far as the work of the EFF in Parliament is concerned. Give us a call or send a WhatsApp voice note.
Your voice.
Your questions.
Your morning radio with Clement Manyathela.
This is 702.
All right, 22 minutes now after 10 o'clock. I want to go straight to your calls and your WhatsApps now. If you've got questions, if you want to join this conversation with Nontando Nolutshungu, who is the EFF Chief Whip in Parliament, you can call us or send us a WhatsApp voice note.
Good morning, Clement. My question to your guest is, if the EFF was part of the GNU, would they do what DA is doing now regarding the budget speech? Thank you very much. Peter Maila Machaba from Lesotho.
All right, Peter, thank you for your questions. I think you already sort of indicated to this, Nontando, but you can just re-emphasize that. That's a question from Peter.
Thank you very much, Peter. As I had stated before, that one of our approaches in the 7th administration is to hold the executive to account. Even if we're part of the GNU, we would have done exactly that, because our main focus is to ensure that we improve the socio-economic conditions of our people. So we will never be part of a decision that will put our people in a worst case position.
I want you to speak to us about the private members bill that you have introduced in Parliament as the EFF. I think that's aiming to cancel student debt. What does that bill actually propose?
Okay, thank you. The student bill debt, the aim of that student bill, you'll find that there are students who have graduated and are looking for employment but are not able to get employment because their certificates have been held back by universities because of their student debt. So the aim of this deal is to eradicate all student debt owed to universities by graduates who cannot obtain their certificates and qualifications due to outstanding debt, and as a result cannot find employment, cannot be employed, are not employable. That bill is now at the stage where we are taking submissions from all those people that have student debt and anyone else who have an interest and believes in that the student debt has to be eradicated. It was gazetted on the 28th of February, and the submission date for all the comments is the 31st of March 2025. And we're hoping to finalize this bill by the end of this year.
So some will argue, especially the universities themselves, is that, I mean, when you look at student debt, I think it was sitting at around 17 billion rand in 2024. So if, as the EFF, you're pushing for this debt to be cancelled, how should institutions then fund that shortfall if it is wiped away? Yes, Nontando? I think you may be muted. All right, we're gonna try reestablish that. There's probably something wrong there with the line. And maybe you can join this chat around student debt as well, because I want to know that, I mean, it's all good and well for student debt to be cancelled, right? That works. There are so many, and Nontando is right in that there are so many students out there who have finished studying, they're done with their degrees, but they are unable to find a job because they don't have their certificates. And the various universities have told them, we're not going to give you the certificate until you have paid off your debt. So what do we do then? Because the institutions may want to argue that, where am I going to find all of this money that is owed by these students? Because that is going to have an impact also on how that university functions as the new cohort comes in. And I wonder what you think the option there could be for the economic freedom or for the universities themselves. Call us on 011-883-0702 while we try and re-establish that line with Nontando Nolutshungu. You can send us a WhatsApp as well on 072-702-1702. I know that the MPs that have not been known for high discipline and good work ethic, that's what I also wanted to ask Nontando about. I mean, there was a study last year that found that some EFF demonstrated poor performance and attendance in the first 6 months of the current administration. So I wanted to know about the monitoring mechanisms that the EFF has to ensure that, you know, there is high MP performance in the National Assembly and accountability. And I actually think there are other parties as well that have struggled with this, where there are members of parliament that simply don't show up for meetings, committee meetings, or they come for the big moments, right? Oh, because also they're going to be on TV, they're going to be able to say a speech that's live on television. So they come in when there's budget, when there's questions asked to the president. They come in when there's the State of the Nation address. So the big moments, they are there when the president is responding to questions. But when do they actually attend to their responsibilities, their constituencies, or attend meetings in committees and make sure that they hold the executive accountable? That report found that there were some EFF members of parliament that were not attending the committee meetings, and I wanted to know how they will be dealing with that.
Good morning, Clement and the team. Please, can you ask the Chief Whip of EFF to tell us about the situation in Ekurhuleni, because there is corruption allegations against the speaker, of which the speaker is coming from their party. If he can just explain, because according to the information there is evidence. According to the information there is evidence. So what they say is a party.
Yeah, when as soon as we're able to reestablish that line, I'll ask her that question.
With Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
28 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's continue our conversation with Nontando Nolutshungu. We had issues there with Zoom, so we're going to speak to her via the cell phone line now. I want to go back to some of your questions that you asked and give her the opportunity to respond. But before that, Nontando, there's a question that I asked earlier on when we got cut off on Zoom, and that was a question about this private members bill in Parliament aimed to cancel student debt. You've already explained what the bill actually proposes. So the follow-up question I asked was, what about the concern that universities have that, if you look at just how much this student debt is sitting at, it's about 17 billion rand. This is in 2024. And some universities are saying that if the institutions fund that shortfall, right, if they wipe it away, that's going to be a concern for them. Where do they get money that's going to continue the operations of those universities and also allow for the new cohort that's coming in to still have a viable, functioning university?
Oh, thank you, Clement. Clement, there is a lot of money that is being wasted that can be channeled to education. Let us look at the National Student Fund. Currently, there is underspending of 3.8 billion. NSFAS also has a 4.4 billion that they have not reinvested into the fund. And lastly, the SIU, every now and then, they have monies that they are recovering. For instance, there's a recovery of, I think it's about 2 billion that was being paid to Go students. And something that I also mentioned earlier on, that we have deputy ministers that are not doing anything. Because when you ask the role of deputy ministers, you can't really define it. So there is a lot of money if we are serious about getting money where we can tap in and tighten the belt and take money and put it into the student debt.
Okay, here's another question on WhatsApp line.
Morning, Mr. Clement. Revolutionary greetings to Leader May Nontando. I have no question for her. I just want to say thank you so much, Leader, for the good work that you guys are doing in Parliament. Just keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Tawen Pretoria.
Good morning, 702. This is Kylo from Soshanguve. I think it is fair that the institutions withhold the certificates until the debt is paid, because that money is only going to last for a month. They're going to pay staff members, the teacher, the professor, and costs, electricity, etc. But those skills are going to last a lifetime.
Okay, thank you so much for that. There's a question here from on WhatsApp line. Someone who says, "Hi Clement, I want to know from the EFF, what will they do if the ANC does table some kind of a percentage increase, as they're saying they're opposing it in Parliament, but practically, what will they do?" And Nontando, are you as other parties willing to sit? And because once the budget, of course, is proposed and presented in Parliament today, there's an opportunity for you and other parties in Parliament to meet and start discussing, do we support, do we not? Is there an opportunity here for you and other parties to sit and talk about maybe the kind of adjustments or amendments you want to see and support so that you've got the numbers to pass the budget? Is that something you're looking at? Because maybe the ANC may not support some of the amendments that are made.
Definitely. As long as it will be, as I have indicated before, that it will be something that will benefit the poor. We are willing to sit down, look at it, and then make some proposals and take them back to the ANC. But as I've said, our main concern is to not make the poor poorer.
And then the other issue I wanted us to touch on is about the attendance of members of Parliament in committees in the National Assembly. There are MPs that have been known for not having high discipline in as far as their role in those committees are concerned. I think there was a study last year that found that some EFF members of parliament demonstrated poor performance and attendance in those committees. In some of the committees they are scheduled to in the first 6 months of the current administration. Do you have instances where members of parliament are not meeting their obligations in as far as their attendance and performances in those committees? And what monitoring mechanisms do you have as the EFF to ensure that there's high performance and high attendance of your MPs in the National Assembly?
Clement, so far the attendance of our members in this 7th administration has been good, and we are monitoring that very closely. I'll make an example. Yesterday, as we were sitting in Parliament, out of 39, only 32 attended. And we got the whip responsible for attendance to account for all of those members. And all of them, they were accounted for. And so people are aware that there are consequences for not attending Parliament. As I've said that this year, we are taking a different stance in terms of attendance, in terms of robust engagement. And also, as I've indicated, that on a weekly basis, on a Tuesday, we are meeting study groups to strengthen our engagement in all committees. And on Thursday, to look then on logistics, reports, at the attendance and many other housekeeping issues. And if one looks at what has been happening in Parliament before we even came in, the political parties dependent on the ruling party to produce bills. So what we've done now, coming from the NPA, we have a number of resolutions that have been tabled, and we are taking all those resolutions and look at, particularly in governance, to look at what are the proposals that have been put forward in terms of the bills that we must introduce in Parliament. So every member of Parliament will look at their cluster and check the bills that they are supposed to introduce and do that. Because in terms of Section 73 of the Constitution, we are given an opportunity as members of Parliament to introduce private members' bills. So we are going to do something that has never been done, that has not been done. I mean, the EFF is now leading in introducing private members' bills. As you have said, the student and debt cancellation bill. We also have the insourcing bill, and that bill, the aim of that bill is for the state to get rid of the middlemen and employ cleaners, security guards, and so forth directly. And the benefits of that is that it will improve the living conditions of the people, because people will be earning, more. You take a security guard. When the middleman goes, he will go something like 36,000 for one guard. And what goes to the guard, you'll find that it is only half or a third of that amount. So once you cut the middleman, you'll find now that the salary is better, and that person will take home, the net will be better, and that person will be on medical aid, and at the end of their term, when a person retires, will be eligible for pension directly from the company.
Mm-hmm. Finish your point.
So that is where we are in terms of strengthening our position and our engagement and making sure that members of Parliament do what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Are you at all concerned as the Chief Whip about the capacity of EFF members of Parliament are you worried about also the capacity that you have lost when some members left the organization? I mean, you had people like Floyd Shivambu, Buyiseni Ndlozi, Zonele Manyi, Busisiwe Mkhobani, you name them. Is there a concern that, and I'm asking this question because I've got a question here from Tsepo on Twitter who says, why is it that Julius Malema gets given all that speaking time? I think this was probably when the State of the Nation address was debated. You may correct me if I'm wrong here. So the suggestion here is that Julius is the one who's going to speak a lot in Parliament because maybe there is no capacity. What's your view on that?
Thank you, Clement. State of the Nation address, we had 3 speakers. It was the President, it was Sihle, and it was also the TG. Mm-hmm. Now, people need to understand the difference when a person has tendered a motion, because that motion was proposed by the President himself, mm-hmm. the last motion on the matter of US. So the person that sponsors the motion is the person that also needs to respond. There is no such that it is only the President that is speaking. You look at the debates that we've had, check your records, you will see that every member of Parliament of the EFF is given an opportunity to debate. This person is only speaking about this one motion that was sponsored by the President.
Okay. And the issue of capacity, are you at all concerned about that?
In terms of the capacity that we've lost, you can see now the young ones are coming up to fill that void. You look at the likes of Sihle, you look at the likes of Nawo Tambo, you look at the likes of Naledi, and many others, Ombali Dlamini, and many others. So we are building a layer of leadership in the EFF. That is why you'll find that when others have left, there's already people that are ready to take in, to step in. So even those that will leave, we are grooming other members that will step into those roles. So we are not worried. You can see our performance in Parliament. We are improving, and there are no worries because we've got people that are able to step in and take in that role. Thank you.
Yeah. And speaking of the US, one thing that as the EFF in Parliament you've been clear of is support government in the face of these attacks from the US, especially in as far as, bulliness is concerned. Your leader has come out to say, the country can't be bullied. Like we see the US trying to do. What is your position there? Because, what do you think as the EFF is the best way to respond? I know your leader asked a question yesterday of why the president met with Elon Musk, and I suspect the president is also trying, because these are uncharted. we're in uncharted waters now, right? You've got a president of the US who's got someone who seems to be in a co-presidency with him. So at some point you've got to think differently as a government about how you approach a country like that. What do you think should be the approach of government given this kind of hostility from the US?
Clement, US is dependent on SA in terms of minerals. We in Africa have minerals, and we shouldn't allow a situation where we are bullied by countries that are dependent on us. Africa is rich in minerals, and we have allowed the West to take advantage of us and continue with the manner in which issues were handled during colonization. So it is time now to go back to the drawing board and see how best we can reposition ourselves as Africa, because we are the richest in terms of minerals. There is nowhere else where minerals are produced except for in Africa. All these countries are dependent on us. How is it that we can be bullied by countries who are dependent on us? I mean, if you look at our raw material gets exported to create jobs in other countries. When they come back to South Africa, defined and sold at higher prices, whereas we can do beneficiation here at home, create jobs at home, and when selling those minerals, we put tax on those people that want to come and deal with the issues of minerals. So all what we're saying is, let's find ways and means. It's not that we have nothing. You would allow yourself to be bullied if you've got nothing. You have something that is needed somewhere, and if that is the case, then go out there and bargain.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a fair point you're raising about natural resources that we have, but have we used that to our full benefit? Because as you say, a lot of our minerals leave this country and there's no beneficiation, even though the ANC has been talking about the need for beneficiation for so many decades now. And yet our raw materials leave raw and they come back refined. So we're not fully also benefiting from the very same resources that we would want to use as leverage, as Minister Mantashe also said. I'll give you an opportunity to respond to that after the break. It's 11 minutes now before 11 o'clock.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
7:02.
Right, 8 minutes now before 11 o'clock. We're wrapping up our conversation with Nontando Nolutshungu, who is the EFF Chief Whip. And Nontando, the question I was asking there was about, the fair point you make about natural resources, but the reality is we're not still fully benefiting from our natural resources because they leave raw, they come back refined. Beneficiation has been spoken about as a policy, and still to this day the ANC talks about it, but there's no implementation.
And what was the question?
So I was asking that, are we truly getting the benefits of it? Because you spoke about how we are rich in minerals here, and we can't be bullied. And I'm saying, yes, we are rich in minerals, but we haven't built an industry here of beneficiation where we can refine our own, mineral resources, our natural resources, and take them out, right? Export them to other countries where we see the full benefit. So is that really truly a full benefit of the resources?
That's exactly the point. We've got policies. SA has got the best policies. But when it comes to implementation, we fail dismally. What is the point of having policies? Because the policy on beneficiation is there, but it has not been implemented in a manner that will benefit South Africans. As you're saying, as the EFF, give us an opportunity. Give us an opportunity to govern. That is why we are even keen. Some people will sort of misinterpret if we are invited by the ANC to join the GNU. If the DAE goes out, we are more than willing. We'll come and join, but we will show you what is it that we can do as the EFF, because the policies are there, but they're not being implemented. It is a matter of implementation. Instead, people are busy stealing. People are busy. Corruption has reached the highest level in South Africa. So, all what we need to do, get rid of corruption, focus on building South Africa for all South Africans.
There's someone who's asking you about the position on the SANDF, the EFF's position on the SANDF. Obviously, we know about the soldiers that we've lost. There's issues of capacity that's been raised. We are still asking ourselves whether our soldiers are there on an enforcement mission or whether they're there on a peace mission. Can you just clarify that position?
You will know that we are the ones who led the charge in demanding accountability in terms of the 14 soldiers that were killed in the DRC. And we're also in the forefront of saying, bring those soldiers back home. And the government is putting all kinds of different reasons for not bringing those soldiers home and for not getting involved. We know that as we had also mentioned, that we are suspecting that there are interests, mining interests of certain individuals within the ANC, in the DRC. We are now currently busy with that, checking what is the main reason for not bringing those people home.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, as the EFF, our stance is saying, bring our people home, because you cannot send soldiers to war without the tools that are necessary.
And of course, those tools are going to cost money, and it doesn't help that Parliament itself has been cutting budgets even on the SANDF.
That's exactly the points that we've been raising. You send people without the tools of trade, and you cut the budget, but still send people without the necessary tools of trade.
So what are you going to do about that as the EFF in Parliament?
As I have said, we have written to the minister. We've called the minister to account. We've made demands that those people must come back. We're waiting for the response from the minister, and then we've even set deadlines for that.
Okay, and I was asking, when I said, what are you going to do about it? I was asking about the budget cuts. Is there a position you can take that if really government, it moves towards that approach of still not giving the SANDF enough money, because we've seen the consequences of that? Is that something that you challenge as the EFF? What approach then do you take if we still continue to see, and if it's not budget cuts, maybe we see that not enough money is being allocated for the SANDF?
Clement, we've just come after the conference. Every year in the EFF, we have what is called the planner. We plan our activities for the year. And out of that planner, we come out with the theme of the year. And our theme of this year is the year of picket lines. We are going out back into the streets to voice. If the parliament doesn't listen, if ANC doesn't listen, we are going back, we are mobilizing, and we are going to the picket lines to force the government to do what is best for our country. Okay.
Nontando, thank you so much for making time for us. Nontando Nolutshungu is the EFF Chief Whip in Parliament, talking to us about their parliamentary work as part of a series that we have been doing over the last couple of weeks here about the Chief Whips of Parliament. We've already had a conversation with the MK Party. We have spoken to the African National Congress last week. And today was the turn of the Economic Freedom Fighters. And what we'll do in the coming week is to bring in the Democratic Alliance as well.